The Chiefs had a third straight Super Bowl in their grasp, but they let it slip out of their hands. We're going to go over the why, the how, what happens now. This is not going to be painful. Maybe it will. Let's get into it. Welcome to RGR Football. Welcome back, Chiefs fans, Bengals fans. I'm sure some of you'll be in here to gloat too.
I'm sure.
Welcome to you. Congrats to the Bengals. That's fine. Chiefs had this game though. This was their ball game. They decided that they weren't going to complete this ball game for some reason. We're going to go over our notes, what stands out to us, some of the questions that you have that we have as well. We're going to go through it all. And I know you guys aren't that happy right now, and I don't blame you a bit. There are repercussions. We'll talk about that. Maybe not tonight. We'll see if we get any inkling. But welcome. For those of you that are new and want to commiserate, this is RGR Football. I'm Ryan. This is Dan. We're going to tell you what we think, what we see, and a little bit more. But I know this is a tough one to take, Dan. But when they didn't take that field goal with 5 seconds left in the first half, did you feel it turn right there?
It wasn't so much the not taking the field goal. I don't have an issue with the play calling, like to go for it to the touchdown there. I got no issues with it. But you need to throw it in the end zone. You have to, okay? And if you're not going to do that, and if you're going to swing it out to Hill, you need a legitimate threat that you're going to try to run the ball. It's on the 1 yard line. All you need is a yard, and the Bengals were like, yeah, you're not going to run the ball because it's 1 yard, and you got no timeouts left. So I have no issues with that because you would have had at least 2 seconds, 1 second to get the field goal after that if you don't get the touchdown, and then it's there. But that was a kind of a turning point, and you thought, okay, maybe they can come out, they get the ball, just go down, kind of continue it. And then the Bengals did exactly what I said they were going to do originally. They started playing more physically on the corner position. They were holding, they were grabbing. It wasn't getting called. We knew it wasn't going to get called because it's the playoffs, and the refs don't want that stuff to happen in those kind of moments. So you saw a couple balls go off hands of Hill, or Hardman, and Hill and Kelce, and every one of those plays, someone was getting held a little bit. You have to understand the situation and know that they're going to play a little more physically. And they didn't. They just didn't adjust to that. And it was a little frustrating to watch that. And then the Bengals decided, drop 8. Just drop 8. They don't want to run the ball. They want to just drop 8.
That's my big problem. The play call, you're right. The routes were fine. You got to throw the ball into the end zone. Yes. Why you're putting Tyreek in the flat? He's not the right player for that. I don't think that uses what he does best.
No.
But my bigger problem with that, I don't think you can go for it there. This is a team that came back on you last time. You can't assume that because you're up 21 points that you're okay to coast. And that's what it felt like. And I'm all for giving Patrick what he wants. Patrick wants to go for it. I get that. You got to trust your quarterback. All that said, at the end of the day, you've been down this road before. You have to be the coach that says, you know what? We've seen them come back on us in this situation exactly the same. We're going to take those points and make sure that we stretch this and make sure that it's 2 touchdowns. I have a problem with that decision. I thought that they stalled just in general and didn't execute down there. They did the same thing the whole second half. They thought they had this in the ball game again, much like we saw earlier in the season. It was in a lot of ways a flashback to that midseason stretch that was just so terrible.
Yeah, and that's the more frustrating part about this is that, the Bengals won. I would have much rather see the Bengals win the game like outright instead of the Chiefs handing it to them, because they didn't play like themselves, and that's been one of the biggest problems with the Chiefs this season. We didn't know if it was going to show up, and then it ended up showing up in the biggest half of football that they've played this season, and you can't have that happen. It was the choke job that Mahomes has never really had in the playoffs. I think last year in the Super Bowl, he obviously had some issue with the offensive line, but this was just, there's not much excuse that I can see. He felt like he was rushing when he didn't have to. It felt like he was scrambling when he didn't have to. Everything that we've seen Mahomes do at times that get him in trouble when you leave in the pocket when you don't have to and things like that seemed to creep up in this game, and he got extremely tight. That over time, ball sailing. Like, I don't know what happened, but mentally, Patrick Mahomes wasn't in the game.
Well, and here's the bigger deal to me. You could tell something was wrong when he's making mental mistakes. Yes, he was scrambling. I think he should just broke the pocket, thrown the ball away, and gotten out of those. But then he wants to try to make a play happen. I understand that. He's good at that. He continually went down out of bounds. That is not the end of the world, but it's not good. Yeah. And I could tell from that particular performance that something wasn't just clicking. The situational awareness was not what it usually is. And I think it's probably due to the fact that he's being told, we want to eat up time, take it easy. Until that point, that drive was fine. They did exactly what I told them to do. Yeah. Just take what's there and work your way down the field. You don't have to go for it. You don't have to like make a big push. They ran it a couple times to McKinnon, and they got what we thought they would get is just a yard or two, and that's fine. Right there, at that point, that's okay. They didn't run it in overtime. Yeah. Mahomes pushed the ball. Like you said, it sailed. There's no reason for that third down play call. And, folks, I tweeted it. Go check Ryan Tracy NFL because you can see the dots. Yeah. That play call was a problem because you didn't have routes just to get the first down. You went for it again when you didn't have to. All you had to do is move the ball, and that was the problem. Yeah. Again, it just felt like old problems resurfacing, wanting to have the heroic end again that you didn't need. You just needed to be steady. And that was the issue.
Big. Folks, I know that we're seeing some defensive stuff, but I thought the defense played okay outside of letting Joe Burrow do whatever he wanted to on scramble drill. Like they just found some irregular rushing lanes, and then Joe Burrow said, okay, no one's really getting open, and I'm going to take advantage of it. And that's what they did. And then tackling, we talked about that too. You have to tackle multiple times in this game. They didn't tackle Joe Burrow. They didn't tackle some of the other players. They held up to stop short before the tackle. You can't have those. Those are mistakes that lose you football games, and it lost them this football game.
And by my count, Joe Burrow ran out of 3 Chris Jones sacks. That's an issue. That's not something we usually see of all people, Chris Jones not being able to finish those. Now, that said, you have to give respect to the opponent because they made adjustments that slowed you down and made your job tougher in the second half. That's fair. But at the end of the day, you shut it down. This is on this staff and this team. There are no other excuses. You can complain about the refs. You can do whatever you want. I will say this. I was concerned about when McCole got hit out of bounds without a flag. I was concerned that someone was actually going to get hurt. That was my big worry. But that said, I thought the lack of calls was pretty evenly displaced. Chiefs were able to get grabby in the secondary as well. So, balance-wise, you can't say that it was the refs that caused this. This was on this team. And maybe it's just overall fatigue. I've been talking about it all year. How do you get yourself to a third Super Bowl? It's so rare that it really makes that uphill climb very difficult. They did some good things. We'll talk about some of that. And I know we have some super chats, folks. I do thank you for those. We're going to answer all your super chats. We are going to continue in the offseason doing chats Mondays and Thursdays. You're going to see that. I know there'll be no breakdown because we won't have games, but I know I'm getting on a plane to Mobile, Alabama for the Senior Bowl tomorrow. You'll have all kinds of draft stuff. We'll have tons to talk about. Tomorrow nights will probably be Dan because depending on my flight schedule, I may not be available for live, but I may pop in if I make it. So it's going to be fun. Big things today. I thought my big takeaways were the young guys stepped up. Willie Gay had a couple of PBUs. He was generally in the right place. He blitzed well when they sent them. Nick Bolton played well. Got caught a couple of times over rushing his gap, but he corrected it. I don't think it was terrible. Obviously, Snead making a play. Again, yes, you can say that he had a little bit of a hold there, but he made a play. The young guys are encouraging for next season. That's okay. What's your top takeaway?
My top takeaway is I don't want it to be negative, but it is negative. Like there's adjustments. There were not big enough adjustments on the offensive side of the ball in the second half. You were getting 6-7 yards a play on the ground, and they were just like, no, we're not going to do that. It's exactly what the Bengals wanted you to do in big moments when the one thing that you really do better than anybody else is throw the ball. When they're dropping 8 into coverage and you're just like, we're going to throw the ball. We're going to throw the ball. We're going to throw the ball. that gets you into bad situations. And those 3 and outs in the second half, like they ran the ball and then they were like, okay, we're done. We're gonna start throwing it.
Right.
When you got like 6-7 yards a chunk, like they stalled out. So excuse me, I didn't
And
see
the
it.
backs were doing well.
Yeah, I think that both of them, McKinnon looked explosive between the tackles, better than he did last week, and I think that Clyde was grinding out tough yards when they weren't there. I think they both looked pretty well, pretty well.
McKinnon 5.4 on the day.
Yeah,
Clyde 6 yards a carry on the day.
It's there, and it's funny because I talked to you guys before on Friday about the run game, that it could be the key to this game. They were getting it done in the trenches. They were moving the ball, and the Chiefs decided they were not going to run the ball. That mental error likely cost them this football game, and it's as tough as it is. I think they did a good job at the end, okay? I think they tried to manage the clock at the same time of getting down in the scoring. I think they did a pretty decent job of doing that. Okay. And then there had to have been a play call for them dropping 8 and only sending 3. I'm a little upset that they didn't try to do a mid screen, something like that. When you're only rushing 3, just send them off to a side, have everyone clear out and try to run a little mid screen right there with somebody, maybe even a Blake Bell, someone not going to see. Just try to.
I think it's simpler than that. You have a guy named Mike Burton. Put him in the lineup and run it down their throats if they're rushing 3. Yeah. It's the most basic concepts of football, back to Pee Wee.
Yeah.
Run it where they ain't. And it's just that simple. I'm sorry, that gets me fired up because that's like all up and down. Why aren't they running more? Why aren't they running more? They need to do this. Again, this was them letting off. This was them getting comfortable, and they have to fix this now, whether it's the staff, whether it's Mahomes himself. Mahomes has the option to call some of those RPOs. So maybe some of those passes were called runs that we won't know about until we get the inside. But I thought he struggled with the decisiveness in that red zone. Again, there were times where he could just tuck it and run, get a few yards, and get on to the next play.
He had Hardman for a touchdown in that red zone, by the way. He didn't pull the trigger. Yeah. Indecisiveness. That was the one time I've seen that he really tensed up in a big moment on the big stage. He tensed up and he would not throw the ball to the younger guys. Where we thought there was some trust being performed there. McCole Hardman played well in this game. I think that he hit the drop, but it was up here. Okay, that's fine. But I think he played well enough to throw him there. He had it at the pylon. If you throw it at the pylon, he's probably going to catch it for a touchdown, and you're up 28-24 with 39 seconds left. And they have no timeout. That was the big thing. I didn't understand what happened to Mahomes that he got so tense. Yeah. Like mentally, we haven't seen that out of Mahomes. That was one of the, like I said, the biggest surprises in this game is that he tensed up in big moments against a team that is not as good as the Bills. It's not.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I see there's some Who Days in the house. Welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
Let's keep it civil. We had a bunch of kickouts the other night. I don't want to have to go through that, so let's everybody stay nice. But congratulations, Bengals. You took it. Well done. The problems with this team have been kind of up and down all season, right? The last thing that I do want to mention is, again, it is about self-control. And that's not on Patrick on the interception play because that's the play that was called. Mm-hmm. And those dots will show you that that route combination didn't need to be there. You didn't have the overs. You didn't have the things that can just get you onto a fresh set of downs, and that's what it should have been. Now, folks, we are going to do all the super chats coming up here in a minute, and you can join the memberships. You can have our not safe for work versions here in the next couple of weeks as we go through this. Any other major takeaways before we get into the questions?
I mean, Chris Jones, I thought that he was everywhere all the time, and it's becoming a problem with Chris Jones and not getting sacks where he's right there. It's starting to become he's an exceptionally great, talented player. That's very obvious, okay? He's exceptional, but he's got some issues finishing in those tight spaces. I know that he's getting held and pushed and all this other stuff, but I just this entire front four in a game where you had the advantage. The Bengals offensive line's not good, and they just didn't stay disciplined enough in their rushing lanes to let Joe Burrow get out and just into open space for multiple third down conversions. Bad situational awareness. And this was a game that I thought Frank Clark could have a game. He did not. And goodbye. He is done. He's gone. And that will be the end of that experiment.
I think that will. We do have an offseason rebuild coming in certain ways because of the salary numbers, folks, and we will get to all that. And for those Bengals fans in the chat, I wouldn't say that they were overconfident. I called this a 3-point game. So I had faith in you getting to that point. It didn't end the way that I wanted, but again, you have to give respect where it's due. You also have to call out what you didn't do in terms of execution. So that said, we're going to get into some of the questions. We have some super chatters here supporting us, and it starts with Stevie. Thank you, Stevie. You can catch him on Fridays on the Roguehead Huddle. We will continue that depending on schedules this offseason as well. Problem isn't going for it at the end of the half. The problem was not running on first down, not getting a heavier package. I agree with you. I think Blake Bell was still in the picture at that point. I wonder if not having the 3 tight end groupings that they practiced all week in there because of the Gray injury, maybe that threw them off. But I agree. You got to take shots at it on the ground. You're running well.
Yeah, they were running well all game. I think they had one run that was like under 4 yards. I think that was pretty accurate. So it's a tough day when you're running the ball well and you just decide not to do it.
It is. It definitely is. Thank you, Stevie. Bill, thank you. I put the squarely on the shoulders of Andy and Patrick. Terrible execution down the stretch. Awful, sick to my stomach. They deserve the L. I mean, and that's fair. When you don't perform for 38 minutes of a ball game, that earns you the loss. I wish I had an answer for you guys who are searching for why this happens. I don't know, but I've had the luxury of having some exposure to some motivational speakers that have come from different worlds, including the Navy SEALs and some of the things that they do. And they need a dose of this heavy reality. And I'm happy to provide that, Coach. If you would like an outside perspective, you need it because there's certain mentality inside the room, inside the building that feels like when we get to X point, we're good. Mm-hmm. And that is not the case. And it hasn't been the case. And failing to identify that is what gets you in these type of positions. And unfortunately, we've seen it all too often.
Yeah. I know that people want to blame Andy Reid. I think that a little bit of fatigue maybe in there too. I think that there's some defensive issues as well. I think that Spags did a good job of adjusting to Jamar Chase. Give him some credit there because there was a talk that he wasn't going to. But they rolled safety as well to him. Again, I think that they were close enough on Higgins a couple times, but he just made some really good catches. But for me, they played too far off the line of scrimmage on some of these throws. Like Higgins, they found some play action stuff in behind some of these guys, and Higgins was just having a really good game, making tough catches. But I think that they did a decent job of keeping everything in front of them for the most part. They had some of the bigger chunk plays, but this was not anything close to what happened in the first game on defense. The Bengals chunked their way down, and when the chains needed to be moved and there was pressure in Burrow's face, he did what Mahomes usually does. He found ways out. He extended the plays, and he got those first downs. And I give a ton of credit to Joe Burrow. Did not quit when this game was down. He found ways to get this team back into it. The defense did a good job of forcing and making tough throws, squeezing everything, as some people say. And again, you got to give credit where credit's due. And I think Joe Burrow did an excellent job of just finding ways to extend plays and get those first downs.
I will say this. I agree with you for the most part about Spags. He came out and he did what he needed to do initially. The whole first half I felt was solid. There was one drive that they went down and they did score and they did get points on it, that he tried to go back to the old style. He tried to single him up and it didn't work, and he got on a roll, and that lit the whole team on fire. That was a problem. If he would just stayed with the plan that was working and not screwed around to get back and get aggressive, which I think is not only his style, but I think it's a little bit of a fallback. When things start to go badly, I think that's where he feels most comfortable.
It's the same with the offense.
Right, exactly.
Things get tight, they start throwing the ball a ton. And when you're running the ball well, just keep doing that. But again, Spags, again, I saw a couple times where he blitzed when he didn't need to. There was no reason to, and it got him in trouble. And again, like you said, that comfort level with Spags and Andy to an extent. With Andy, it's more because you have Mahomes. Okay. They feel more comfortable going to the passing because they have Mahomes. For Spags, there's no excuse right now. You don't have that guy that's gonna
go over one.
Yeah, there's no, you can't do anything there. And the going back to the blitzing was just him saying, I got to try something different. I actually saw Coach Vass tweet about it. You guys remember Coach Vass? He was on in the offseason. We're probably going to have him on again this offseason. And he was like, I'm feeling a Spags emotional cover zero blitz coming. Like, because it's always going to happen. He's going to find a way to just sneak a blitz in there that doesn't need to happen. And he did a few times in this game. And Burrow made chunk plays out of it.
That's the problem. I will give him credit. He did shift back. The late thing, you guys heard me in the game plan video, or was it CITN? I can't remember. I told you, put Snead on him and put a safety over the top. He went to that late, and it worked.
Yes, it worked.
That's how he got the interception. Like, he recognizes he's just late, and he's just fighting his own tendencies. And I don't know if that can continue next season. I don't think that Andy will move away from him. I'll tell you that. And I know a lot of people are in here are going to say, hey, it's time to get him out. I don't think that happens, you guys.
I agree.
I just don't. That said, Brendan, thank you for the support. I understand we're all upset, but let's take a second to appreciate that they made 4 straight AFC championships. You can't win the Super Bowl every year. I disagree. You can win the Super Bowl every year. Tom Brady did that, and that's what we're here for. I'm just kidding, Brendan. Man. But that's the attitude the players have to have. Like, that is your goal every season. So it is terrible that, again, that it's a lot like shooting yourself in the foot, this loss, than it is that the Bengals raised their level of play. Although I will say, not only was it a terrible decision and a terrible play call that caused that interception in overtime, it was a hell of a play by Jesse Bates.
It was timed it perfectly. If he's there a little bit earlier, that's probably flagged. Like, I think in that situation, it's probably flagged. But what's he looking at? You have double coverage. It's double coverage, okay? I know that he's running wasp. He's probably running wasp. He's probably running a double move. But that safety is shaded. If he's there that quickly, that safety is shaded. That means that there's one-on-one somewhere, okay? You can get 10 yards. He was looking down there. That's also a reason that Bates was able to get there so quickly.
Let me see if I can pull that up. Here, would you answer Stevie's? And I'm going to pull that up and show everyone.
Appreciate you, Stevie. Patrick Mahomes melted down, and Reed says Evie didn't make adjustments. I think that's a pretty unfortunate, apt decision that we've kind of talked about a little bit, with the not running the ball a little bit more and just not running enough double moves. I think that you could find ways to do intermediate double moves with how they were playing physically. I think you can get some holds and some calls, some pass interferences. If you do a little bit of shaking somewhere inside that 10, 15-yard line, you might be able to get some of those. So, I think we agree with you, Stevie.
All right, let me see if I can pull this up, and I'll show you guys exactly what we're talking about, because, it's nice when you have the dots that you can go to.
Oh, dots. I like dots.
Right? They help. So here's the play. And this is what you're seeing.
Okay.
And this is the interception. This is why Patrick did what he did, because he has a creep down safety here that's looking to take away this area that they're looking to get the first down in, right? Mm-hmm. And so when the play breaks, let me see if I can advance this without like fast forwarding it all the way. As Tyreek comes off the line, what he sees is that Tyreek's even with him right here. Ball's still in Mahomes' hand, and he's got Tyreek open, because if he's even, he's leaving. It's over, right? But he overcooked the ball. And that's how it got all the way back there, where Tyreek couldn't end up getting here at the, like, maybe the 45-ish. Then he's curving out to the sideline a little bit more. He makes that play, and you're in business, right? It's just a little bit too far. And at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. Again, this is a play that didn't have to happen. You didn't need this route. What you needed was a clear out and a nice under by, I wouldn't have run Robinson. This would have been Pringle in my mind, but that's okay. A clear out, maybe a sail, but a deep dig in there, get the first down, or you let this guy match up on Travis Kelce and say, beat me, because Travis wins that matchup.
So what are they doing on 3rd and 10 with two tight ends? No offense to Blake Bell. What are they doing on 3rd and 10?
They're trying to pull these two defenders down. They're trying to make this clear out. By keeping him in and running Travis across, they're trying to pull this and open up Tyreek's over route.
Got newsflash for you, Andy. 3rd and 10, no one's getting pulled in.
I don't think so. And that's honestly the problem. It was a miscalculation, I believe. But again, all you needed was something that you felt could get the first down. And it was 3rd and 10. It wasn't a gimme. No. But I think it could have been handled better.
Tough.
That said, Zach's thank you. Feels like everyone thought they were just going to win at half and just gave up. Well, and people were giving me static on Twitter because I came up with a thumbnail at half, and I'm even guilty of it. And I got a little bit like, so that's fair. I do think that was the collective mentality. You're absolutely right, Zach. Jonathan, thank you. What happened to Mahomes in the second half? Sitting in the pocket forever, taking deep sacks, just seemed like so much inaccuracy and bad decisions. I just confounded by the fact that he wanted to throw and couldn't. He wasn't the same quarterback he was in the first 4 drives, right? Before that last one that stalled out, where he was just taking what was there because there were things there. They just weren't what he wanted. He reverted again, felt like, "Ooh, we're cooking. I got 21. We're going to go more. We're going to go more." And that was the issue in my mind. Yeah. Someday I'll get to ask him. I just don't know when. Daryl.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Daryl, thank you.
Hi.
Yes, draft starts tomorrow. Dan and I have been working on and off for the last couple of weeks. I've obviously been talking draft all year on the Locked On NFL Draft Show. You can catch that here on YouTube or on audio. So, it won't be as bad a transition because usually this is the point where I start watching film and I start figuring things out. Well, I've got my top 15 so far. We're going to rank those, and I actually might even have a new Substack for you guys where you can see just the rankings. We might do that too. Cool. Never done that before, so we'll see what we build out here in the next couple of weeks. Thank you, Daryl. Appreciate you as always. Todd, thank you. Good to see you again. Okay, so what do the Chiefs do for next year? Or what do they need for next year? They need a pass rush that can help. They need to bring Melvin Ingram back.
Yes, they do.
They need to make sure that they figure out, does keeping Tyron help you mentally? Lineup wise, being the second coach, or is the smashing helmets on the sideline too much? I think there's a decision coming on that.
Yeah, I'm worried about that. I think they're going to probably ultimately say it's not worth it, especially with money considerations. You don't have a choice. You have to extend Hill. You have to pretty much bring Brown back. I thought he had some rough moments against Hendrickson, who only ever beats him around the edge, and he let him beat him around the edge. So that's a problem for me, and that's always going to be a problem because he's never going to change. That's unfortunately how unathletic tackles are. But I do think that you're going to hopefully see an influx of younger talent, probably some things changing. I hope Spags understands that at defensive end you need speed and athleticism. I think that the only consistent guy in this entire defensive postseason was Melvin Ingram. Melvin Ingram made plays every single game, and that's something that I don't think anybody else can say. And you have to understand that he's a bit smaller, but he doesn't play like it. He doesn't play like it. And I think that Spags' mentality is back in 2007, 2011, where he won with just big NASCAR fronts. He's like, I'm going to just bring a bunch of big bodies, and I'm going to match up problem you inside. It doesn't know it's not in today's NFL. It's not working. It's not going to work. And you need speed and power with bend on the edge to be able to win in today's game.
And that's the thing I think they have to adapt is Melvin was more effective because of the speed aspect of his game.
Yeah.
He is kind of the hybrid that has some power and some speed. You can't go all speed.
Correct.
I don't think that's the answer either, but yeah, you do have to do that. Looks like Tyron is in the pressers right now. I'm not able to keep up live, but it looks like they're all pretty
as they should
in
be.
the same spot we are. Yeah, exactly.
As they should be. Because you have that game and you lose.
So Todd, we will start talking about this
yes.
Next week immediately. And we will dig deep all off season because we know there's a lot coming, but thank you for your support. I hope that you guys will stick around for the off season because there's a lot about why we're here that we've been talking about since last March and April. So there's a lot to come, and you'll see and feel some of these things coming as we get there. Bill, thank you. This offseason Beach needs to fix the secondary and rebuild the pass rush. I would like them to improve at right tackle. Andy failed this team. No adjustments.
mean, I don't even think Andrew Wiley played poorly. I think that
Yeah.
Andrew Wiley played pretty well throughout the postseason, and he's a replacement level player. And I don't disagree with improving, but you're hoping that Lucas Niang can get healthy. And honestly, he's a step up above what Andrew Wiley was. But the difference was there is that Andrew Wiley got chemistry with that offensive line. They got chemistry there. So he felt comfortable next to Smith, and they had a thing going. I think if Niang is there most of the season, he's would have been better than Andrew Wiley is. And when you get that chemistry with your guard, it changes a whole lot of things. You can trust that player. You can do a little bit more on the outside. And since Niang is so much more athletic, maybe not so much more athletic than Wiley. I think Wiley's
a pretty good
athlete, but there's a gap. Yeah. So I think you could see some things different there. So I think that they're hoping that Niang gets better, but you now have Niang on the roster. I bet you Wiley will be back next year as the backup right tackle. I think you're looking pretty good there, in all honesty.
Yeah. I mean, that's the only thing. If you have any reason to believe that Niang can't get and stay healthy, then you have to consider reinvestment in the position.
Yeah.
So I will say that. There's some interesting right tackle prospects that will lower down in this draft, you guys, that you might find very interesting. The pass rush the same way. I know everybody's fired up about Kando. His running mate Johnson is coming out this year. You can't put that investment or hope that. You have to make a serious edge rush investment right now, or you're going to get into that range where you start wasting years of Chris Jones's ability. That's going to be a problem. Quite frankly, I was disappointed with Jaron Reed most of the season until the last 8 weeks or so, and he's turned it on. Melvin was a little ho-hum until he turned it on. I do believe this whole roster, and particularly this pass rush, has been very much pacing themselves to get to the Super Bowl, and they had the fire. I will give them that they lit it up and raised their level of play today. The offense did not, and I think that's a problem across the board, and I think it's a problem from the top down.
Agreed.
Moving to that, Kyle, thank you for your support. Squabbling for the ball, flopping for penalties. That flop, it may have been a flop, but he got pushed off the pile. That was a penalty. That was ridiculous. Yeah. He's just not a very good actor. By the way, kudos to Field Yates, who just had a baby. He, Legarius, and I all now share the same birthday. So
that's awesome.
Just wanted to shout him out for that. Let's see. Did anyone else feel like the vibe completely changed? That's exactly it. They got comfortable, and that is the number one thing that they cannot do going forward. Real Chiefs Talk, thank you for being here and for the support over the years. I appreciate you very much.
Appreciate you, man.
We try. And you know what? There's no reason they can't go back to this game next year. They have some work to do, sure.
That's what you built this team for.
Exactly. And it's built in a way that, yes, you had some problems. Yes, you can overcome them. They have to retool. I'm very interested to see what they do with Graydon Fortson next season and what the roles might be. So there's a lot coming that way. But when you have Mahomes, Hill, and Kelce, you're going to have a future in scoring points.
Yep, he will, no matter what.
Chiefs Talk, cheers. You guys check out the show from him as well. Appreciate you. Take care. And then that's not to say go away for the offseason. Neither we're going to be here pretty much the whole time anyway. You will see content all offseason. This is a 365 show, so we ain't going anywhere. Jeremy Jones, thank you. 25% off the cap going to the front four, only one sack. You're absolutely right, Jeremy. And they are going to address that. If Frank will take a $6, $7, $8 million deal, I think they'll have him back. I don't know that that's the right answer, but that alleviates a lot of the problem is performance per cost.
Yeah, it's a problem. The contract's a big problem, and it's going to be off the books no matter what. Whether he's with the team next year on a much lesser deal or whether he's not on the team at all, that contract will be gone one way or the other. So it's just hoping you can find a way to get some better athletes that are more consistent on the team.
Yeah. Daryl, thank you. Do we need Bieniemy to get a coaching job? That's just between you and me, and I would like to see him go. Okay, that's fair. I think this loss and not going to the Super Bowl is going to help him because he's available as of tomorrow.
Yeah. Like I said, I think he might just end up being a college coach this offseason.
I
think he might take a college job. I think that might be best for him and for the Chiefs. If we're being just stagnation is never good for an organization, in my opinion. I think Andy Reid's been great, but I think you need to have constant turnover. Not constant turnover, but healthy turnover, to get fresher ideas, to get younger people in some of these positions. And EB's been here for a little while at the offensive coordinator. I don't think he's done a bad job at all. I think he's been the offensive coordinator for 4 straight AFC Championship teams. So I don't have any issues with him being the OC. I think for him and for maybe a little bit of a fresh take on some things, it's better for everybody just to see a fresh face in him, to get a different start somewhere else.
Yeah. DT, I'm with you. When I lose to somebody, I want them to win it all so you can say you lost to the champion.
Yeah, I get it.
That totally makes sense to me. And I will tell you this, you guys, I can't tell if somebody's going to bring it up or not, so I'll just address it. It was a team thing. It wasn't just that Patrick lost or shut it down or got overconfident or got comfortable.
Yeah.
The guy started dropping balls at the end of the first half too. When you had to go score more points. This has to be a thing that's beaten into this entire roster, particularly on the offensive side. You're not done until you put 50 up, period. That is your goal every time out. And then maybe you can start feeling safe.
That's the kind of mentality the Bills have. Bills have that mentality. They're out there to hang 50 on every defense. They're out there to hang as many points as they possibly can and to just always attack because of the Chiefs, by the way. So if you're going to be facing teams that never give up, the Bengals did never give up in this game. They were down 21-3. They could have just turned it in. Guess what? They came back and they won because they never gave up. The Bills could have done the same thing when the Chiefs went up by 10. Guess what? They took the lead multiple times in that game. These teams, these young quarterbacks will not give up. They will not stop when you get up because you've shown the potential to just stop playing. You've shown it multiple times.
Exactly.
You need to continue to put the foot down, change things up offensively, go with what's working until they can't stop it. If they're running the ball and it's working, guess what? Keep running the ball. Force guys to have to make you go for a negative 2-yard run before you start throwing it down the field. You have to have that killer instinct. Right now, like we've talked about, the Chiefs don't have it. I don't even think they've had it up until now. I think it's been something that's really missing from this team, and they need it quite badly if they're going to continue to play at this level and be in these games going forward.
I'm going to tell you guys this, and I don't mean to hurt you. Patrick Mahomes needs the mentality that Tom Brady has. Because Brady and Belichick would get to the point where people like me would accuse them of running it up on purpose, and that's exactly what they're doing, just to leave no doubt. I hope Brady retires tomorrow. Quite frankly, I'm tired of him. The guy just bugs me. But I hope that he hangs out with Patrick in the offseason and instills in him a little bit like, be a dragon.
They need to.
Light it all on fire. If there's nothing left to burn, then your job is complete. If there's a single blade of grass that you can still light up, you need to do it. That's where I'm at.
They need it.
Stevie, I get your point. And folks, Stevie said Chris' job shouldn't be to get sacks. It should be to force throws and move Burrow off the point. You're absolutely right. That should be. But when you're Chris Jones's level, just like Aaron Donald, you have to produce sacks as well. Because you're being paid as though you're a pass rusher on the outside that produces sacks.
And he's there. It's not like I'm asking him to just be better and create more sacks. He's there on a lot of these. And Joe Burrow won the best of them to move around the pocket, found ways to make a guy who's got extreme hand strength, like legit hand strength, make him miss when he's not Josh Allen. I give a little bit more of a pass for a Josh Allen because that dude is hard to bring down. Joe Burrow just got sacked 9 times from the Titans.
Yeah.
Just got sacked 9.
And kudos to Joe because he ran harder. He escaped harder today.
Exactly.
After last week.
Like I said, you give credit where credit's due. Burrow did everything in this game to will them back, found ways to come out of those sacks. He did it. But from the flip side, those are sacks you have to have. That's 3.
Yeah.
That's probably an additional 3 sacks in this game, and most of them are on 3rd down. That's the difference in this game. A little bit in terms of
football.
Yeah.
It's what it comes down to every time, because that's a drive killer, or what would have been. Cheeky, thank you. Pat decided to hold the ball instead of handing it off on 2nd and goal on the 4th. Killed us. Yeah.
Well, he didn't.
We don't know that was his decision, though.
No,
we don't know that was an RPO. It could have been, but we don't know that. But his decision on where to go with the ball, rather than, I mean, I'm okay with him just lowering his shoulder and driving himself into the end zone there. I think he could have done that. Yeah. But yeah, the behind the line of scrimmage pass is not what I'm looking for, even if it is Tyreek.
Agreed.
Thorn. That is an R, isn't it?
Yeah,
I have to go to work
Forge.
tomorrow. Or to watch Chiefs bleed out slowly the whole second half. I'm sorry, man. It is going to be tough, but everybody has to go to work tomorrow. They're going to do exit interviews. Veach and his guys are working. They lost polls, so they're going to be changing the organization some. Like there's a lot to be done starting tomorrow. There is no rest for the wicked.
Nope. And not for
Jonathan, thank you again, always. I've always been a supporter of Spags, but his risk-taking mentality and inability to break his own tendencies is becoming a liability. With Fangio available, any chance that they take on him. I can understand the interest that you're stating. I have interest in that as well.
Yeah.
I just don't think Andy will. If he does, then there are options out there. I saw a lot of people saying about Rex, and you guys know I love Rex. At this point, I'm not sure Rex's X's and O's, after some things he said over the last 2 seasons, I'm not sure I want Rex anymore. Because I can't tell how much of it is TV and how much of it is like he'd really do that.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem, isn't it? He's a little out there. And I think that he understands he's a little out there. I know he still kind of like talks about getting a job somewhere. I'm like, dude, you've been out of the game for a while now. Your ideas aren't exactly fresh anymore. So I think that there's a reason some of these guys are in still. And honestly, Andy needs to be a little bit more like Bill Belichick in the sense that when you see, even if you're getting somewhere, you're doing a good job. When there are improvements that need to be made, because as much as Brett Veach is the general manager, Andy Reid, I would imagine, signs off on everything and kind of has his final say. You need to see that there is an improvement that can be made on the defense side of on the football schematically. There are issues with what Spags does, and it's a complex thing that you need to have pretty much a couple different guys that can do it properly. You need to have a Matthew in terms of the mind to be able to execute, line everybody up properly. And you need that kind of thing to work. But if you just had better athletes at corner, at linebacker, at defensive end, some of these things wouldn't happen that continuously happen to the Chiefs over and over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, I always say it, and I know it's repetition. People get tired of me saying it, but it's the truth. The 4 key positions in football are the 4 keys for a reason. Corner is one of them. Defensive end is one of them. Pass rusher, edge, whatever you want to call it. They are the key positions for a reason. Now, that said, I still like Fenton. Fenton has gone past being physical. He's not working on his jam anymore. He's getting beaten early, and then he's having to play catch up. So I want him to get back to that. And that is part of Spags too, being unwilling to actually jam. I had to like tweet it out when Ward actually got to press Chase.
I saw it. I was like, if you just press Chase, I think you're fine. I think Ward can do everything with that sense. You press him, and he's probably not going to beat you over the top. If you give him a free release, guess what? That ball's going behind you. And it didn't happen a whole lot because they allowed him to be a little bit more physical. Obviously, they rotated safety as well, but
Gray, I'll tell you what Mahomes saw with Tyreek. He got what he wanted. He pulled a safety down, and he had the best athlete in the game running free. I think there was a timing issue there. And again, I think honestly, if the ball comes out quicker, where it's not hung up, I don't think the defense gets there. I don't think Bates has a chance to make a play on that ball, but that's what he saw. So, at the end of the day, you can't blame a shooter for shooting. Dirty. Trying to be a glass half full kind of guy, but what kind of higher draft pick now? But you do. So instead of 32, they will be, depending on the outcome of tonight, they will be 29th or 30th. I'm all for being 29th. One spot makes a difference now. In my opinion, that puts Ajabo back on the board. Because I don't think he's the top half of the draft guy myself. There's some that do. We'll have that argument all offseason.
He probably shouldn't be, but I think he will be because of Owe. I think that's why he'll go higher. I think that's why he goes higher.
Yeah, exactly. Owe has paved his path forward.
That's exactly what happened.
You're absolutely right. Tom, thank you. Thankful to be a true Blue Chiefs fan. Seen lots of losing. Some great wins. This is a total team loss. We'll be back to the Super Bowl again, though. Fact. I like your attitude, Tom, and I agree with you. This is a miscalculation, but this is, again, 4th AFC Championship game. You've made some corrections. You have others to make. I think this year proved that even when the defense can't tackle for like 8 weeks straight, when Sorensen is out there covering guys that he has no business covering, and you still get to the AFC Championship game, that with this offense, no matter how problematic it was today, you always have a chance. And I think that will continue going forward.
Yeah.
So thank you for the half full.
Thank you, Tom. I just, Joe Burrow is a special kind of guy. I think that I just want to take a little bit of time here because as much as I hated seeing the Chiefs lose, we're seeing in the AFC specifically the growth of such talented young quarterbacks in the NFL. You have to go through Allen. You get to Burrow, and I don't think Burrow played like excellent in this game, but I think he made the plays necessary when the game was on the line to win a football game. And that's exactly what you need as an organization. So as much as I think that their head coach holds them back, their offensive line is bad. They have issues on defense that don't get solved, if that's probably not the Chiefs. That really Joe Burrow saved Zach Taylor's job. Joe Burrow is a excellent mental quarterback. He makes things better just by understanding where the ball needs to go. How much time I have here. I can kind of step up here. He does not the best athlete in the world, but he knows how to read a pocket. And he, as much as anybody else, is the reason that the Bengals won this game, because when you're given opportunities, you need to be able to take advantage of them. And Joe Burrow said, okay, you guys aren't scoring in the second half. I'm going to go down. I'm going to score. I'm going to find ways to get this team back in it. And he did. So I want to hats off to Joe Burrow. And just do your job. And he did his job. And now he's in the Super Bowl for it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I still think this was way more about Mahomes' lack of performance than Joe Burrow's performance. He was solid.
Agreed.
I didn't think he did anything special. That's okay.
I agree.
Like you said, he directed his team. You're right, Knicks fan. I agree with you. You could complain that 24 points the defense shouldn't have given up. Okay, or 27, whatever it ended. That's fair. But quite frankly, it's less than you gave up to them last time. It again should be something that you give up 24 points, you should win every ball game with Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback with these weapons. It is a team game. So I feel you. Tom, thank you. Castle Bono Blackledge. Need I say more? We have a winner now. Class is half full. Future is bright. Stay the course. I like it. Support him. Continue to encourage his development. As we've been saying all year, like this year started like, is Patrick Mahomes the greatest player ever? No, he still has things to work on. We've seen them this year.
Yeah.
Being greedy, making sure that he makes plays that he wants to make rather than what's there and available and an easy completion. Those are things that he needs to improve on. Self-control. Oh my Lord. It sounds like we're, a 26-year-old multi-billionaire.
Oh, almost, right?
Right?
Got to learn some things along the way.
Daryl, thank you. Can we get rid of Matthews? I had a coach who always said you practice like you play, and if you play like you and you play like you practice, you're right. I mean, I don't think it's a problem with Matthew in either practice or play. I think it's the other things. You'd like to see him just be the leader without the tantrum part of it. I think that's a negative, and I'm just not sure how big a negative is either to the locker room or to the staff.
Yeah. We don't get to see that side, so it'd be interesting to see what they think about it. We'll find out this offseason what they think about it, honestly.
I mean, that said, there's also something to say that he's an all-pro player. Moving on from him voluntarily is a mistake 99% of the time. So unless there's a really good reason or a complete financial impasse, I don't think you can do it. Let's see. Bill, thank you. I meant that Andy Reid failed us, not Wiley. Okay. Yeah, I didn't think that we were pointing that finger at you, dude. You got it.
Yeah.
Mike, Mahomes' eyes looked like he didn't know what was going on, what happened. I didn't feel like that. I felt like he was frustrated in the search for a good spot to throw to because he had 8 guys out there in coverage.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. I think that the very first drive out of the half, you saw what Mahomes was going to do. The balls were accurate to a point, but they were guys right there holding players, which I have no issues with because they weren't calling it a ton on both sides. You want to call it fair. I think they called it fair. And
Right.
they were holding, tugging, being physical, something that we really kind of should have been prepared for as a team. The Chiefs should have been prepared for that, especially when your team was getting non-calls on specifically Rashad Fenton just blatantly holding T. Higgins' hand and saying, yeah, you're not going to catch this ball. That was a no call. That should have told you the Bengals are going to start doing that more. And they didn't run the ball enough. They didn't do enough draw plays, in my opinion. If you see out there they're rushing 3 guys and they're putting 8 in coverage, you run a draw every single time until they commit to stopping that, because you're going to get yards on that. You can get people into the open field. You can just spread everybody out, run a draw play for 7, 8, 9, 10 plus yards. And guess what? They didn't do it. They said, we have Patrick Mahomes. Eventually he'll figure it out. And he didn't.
Yeah, it's a waiting game. It seems everybody is waiting until they have to do something. Again, I feel, the overall elasticity of the last few years, playing so many games, it feels like they're pacing themselves all the time. And anytime they feel that they're comfortable and they can let up, they do. That has to go. It has to be gone.
Yeah.
Or you're going to find yourself in this situation, a playoff team with maybe a playoff win or 2 that loses again and again and again. Mike, thank you.
Appreciate you,
Gray, thank you. Do they ask Orlando to lose weight and help him move better? They might, but I believe the Ravens tried that and it didn't do any good. So.
That's part of the thing with a guy who demands to play left tackle, forces himself out of an organization, and has a mentality about him. He's probably not going to do anything you want him to.
Yeah.
I'll just say
Daryl, good point. We don't need to hear from the Bengals fans. We don't need the rubbing in. We'll support you. I hope you go win it too.
That's okay. It's to be expected after games like this. Like, they can say what they want to. It's fine. I don't have an issue with it. I'm more upset that the Chiefs lost the way they did rather than the Bengals winning. That's just what it is.
Yeah. Erica, thank you for being here. Thank you for everything. Watch your show from Finland. Oh, cheers.
That's awesome.
I'm glad to hear that. It's amazing. It amazes me every year how this thing grows more and more around the world. So thank you.
Awesome.
Tell your friends, and I don't know how to say salute in Finnish, but salute. It's going to be okay. It's not as bad as the Colts loss. I don't feel this was more self-inflicted than that. I feel,
and it wasn't in the divisional game or the wild card game, whichever one it was they played in against the Colts. This was the AFC Championship game, and it's hard to get to 4. It's hard. That's why the NFL is so difficult. And I know it hurts to lose here. And I know that no one wants to hear, look at what they've accomplished. But in some sense, you have to take a step back and realize that what they have accomplished is difficult to do. And yeah, it hurts now. It hurts. We all hurt. And losing that way is no fun. But I still think the future, we talked a little bit about it, the future is bright. And this is not going to be a flash in the pan for the Chiefs. They will be back to this point. They'll be back in the Super Bowl. I truly believe that.
Yeah, I do as well. Thank you, Erica, and cheers. Reed, thank you. Give McKinnon a contract. Give Robinson the boot. Back-to-back missed passes in overtime. Yeah, I mean, it's partly on the quarterback too.
I was about to say, Mahomes just did not read those right. Granted, I think we're going to find out a little bit more later, because Mahomes typically throws to a spot, and he threw it behind Robinson on the 2nd and long, and he threw it too far over his head on the first one. I'm not sure what happened. I think it just kind of left his hand wrong. The second one seems a bit more, he was thrown to a spot and Robinson was in the wrong, but we'll find out later.
Yeah, when we get the 22, we'll know if there was a safety creeping over from that side, which is my guess as to why he plays it there. Either that or he was just inaccurate, which is, again, we've seen more inaccuracy from him in 2021 than we have ever before. Yeah. So I don't know. But thank you. I like the McKinnon idea as well. This game, thank you, Michael. This game is very similar to the first matchup. Did the offense get complacent, or do they just need to better plays and better weapons? I'd like a big receiver. I can get down with a big receiver, but yeah, they got complacent. They shut it down. This is on them. Even Patrick said, and this is a direct quote from the press conference that just happened a couple minutes ago, when you're up 21-3 in a game, you can't lose it. I put that on myself. And hey, cheers to him. That's mature. Yeah. Put it on yourself. But don't just put it on yourself and take that as your job. Fix it. That has to be the focus of the offseason.
I think we talked a little bit about it more earlier in the season. I think Mahomes needs to be more of a get in your face. Okay? If someone's making a mistake at times, you got to call them out on it right there. Okay? I don't see him do any of that. And as much as you want to, say everything's on you like he typically does, he brings it back to himself. This is a team game. You can cover up a lot of things, but people make mistakes. Players make mistakes. You need to hold them accountable as much as you hold yourself accountable. Because if you're not doing that, guess what? They don't change on the field.
Yeah.
That's much of a problem.
Man. Hydra, thank you, as always. People seem to think that because the draft is in KC in 23 that we won't trade up this year if there's a guy they really like available. Do you guys agree with that, or do you think that they'll just go get their guy? I think that's a question mark because I don't know. Right now, Frank Clark also in his press conference says that he wants to return.
Interesting.
And that he knows it's a business. So that signals to me that maybe he's open to a contract restructure or just tearing it up and starting over. So like they have to determine those things about what they're going to do, because despite what Brett Veach will tell you in every press conference between now and the draft that they're going to take the best player available, they're not. They're going to go fill gaps and take guys that they want to have. That's what they're going to do because that's what they've done. I think I don't see this class as very worthy of moving up in general, to tell you the truth. Even more so than last year, I think the value in this draft is between 45 and 75. So I was squeezed to get as many picks into there as I possibly could.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think if you can get as many picks that you said in the top 100, probably in the late second to third round, I think you're going to find some starters and some players that can contribute next year. And that's ideally what you want out of every draft. And the Chiefs got to find ways to hit on some of these second and third round picks like they did this last year.
And that's assuming that you bring back Melvin and you have some answer, whether it's Jaron Reed or someone else, to fill that pass rushing DT role. You have to have that, or else you really can't afford to go, and you have to go get somebody to help Chris Jones because he can't do it himself, as we've seen. It wasn't until Melvin arrived that things started to tick up. So, but we're going to have all this coming as we hear more. Free agency is going to start in a couple of weeks. So we'll get another clue to see how active they are in there. And we have already begun our draft work, folks. You can find us at Rogue Analytics. That's rogueapc.com. You can find last year's draft guide and all that. We're going to be doing more work with more people this season, so get ready. It will be league-wide, but specifically on this channel for the Chiefs as well. Thank you, Hydra. Evan, thank you. I really thought this year was our best shot to go win it all. It's not crazy to say that we were better than the three teams that are left in. I agree with you. Well,
I don't disagree with that. I also think that earlier in the season, they were the worst of these four teams at this point.
That's fair. And
when you have that much volatility, at some point it might rear its head because it's been there this season. And we saw that happen. So as much as I want to believe that this Chiefs team is better than all of the other three teams that are left, at some point you got to find ways to combat your worst self. And their worst self showed up in a game where you can't have it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I get that. I will say this too is, yes, I think that they're the best of these teams left on paper, but you have to go do it.
Yeah.
It's not good enough to just be, hey, we're better here, and there. You have to go beat those other guys that get paid to play the game too. At the end of the day, it comes down to Mortal Kombat hand on hand. That's what it is. That's what this game is. Revo, thank you. Rev Devo, sorry. As a longtime Chiefs fan, we needed this loss to look in the mirror. We all know that things need to change, like Spags, and certain positions. I can understand that. Again, I just don't think that Andy will agree.
Yeah, and hopefully, like I said, hopefully he grows a little bit from that. But I think that at some point, getting that loss that helps you in the future, that might be this game. But I'm not entirely sold that that's going to happen.
And that's a fair point. I think I'm going to watch very closely the next couple of days as we hear from the players and the coaches and see what comes from that. If you start to see coaching turnovers, which I do believe whether Spag stays or not, there will be turnovers on the defensive staff. I am convinced of that. We've already seen that Matt House is leaving.
Yeah.
I think that position in one position group needs some help. I think that they need an assistant for Daly as well, because he's going to have a lot of young guys very, very soon. So we'll see how they structure the staff going forward. Jake, thank you. You always support us, and I appreciate you.
Very much.
Didn't get to watch the game, but looking at the play-by-play and watching it unfold as best I could, I felt like the Chiefs played contradictory football against themselves. You're not wrong.
No, you're not. I think that's a pretty precise answer to what happened, and we would like to see them run the ball a little bit more, but just I think actually, as much as I think that they played contradictory in some points, I think they played exactly who they were as an identity. They want to be a throw the ball identity, and that's where you need to have that little guy tell you this is working. You need to keep
all right,
doing
folks. I am sorry. Pressers are over. I need to record with Matt while he's available. So I'm going to hit these last super chats and we're going to be out of here. Tom, thank you. We're both absolutely right earlier. PM needs to be the Brady gene. Yeah, at the end of the day, it does. Thank you. Huge thank you for carrying us through the season. Thanks to you, Chris. We couldn't do it without you guys and your support. You too, Joe. Appreciate you. And another one from Joe. Thank you. Love the coverage. And we will continue to do that. We're not going anywhere, so you guys will be here. Sean, sorry about the video before. We'll get that figured out next season as well, and we'll talk about this offseason. People calling it a meltdown, I don't know what to call it, but a lack of urgency. When you can do amazing things, you start to rely on that. I think you have to be a little bit more self-urgent. Legion of Zoom, thank you very much. Nice to see you. Been a fan of Watch RGR for an estimated 3 years. An original.
Awesome.
Just recently created a YouTube channel because of you guys. Been on Chiefs fan for 30+ years.
That's
Hurts
awesome.
to lose. Hey, it's a good time. Step forward, take it to your level, and do your own thing. Thank you for supporting us along the way, Legion, and I hope that our paths continue to cross as they have. We appreciate the support as well.
Very much.
Tom makes me wonder if we had started 5 games, we're better off in a different season ending, but 18-0 is still and in a playoff loss. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you'd like to start hot, but these last 4 games are the ones that were most important, and they were able to step up their game until today. And that's honestly just what happens.
Yeah.
Let's see. Can the Chiefs afford to bring Reed, Nadi, and Clark back in Ingram? Probably not. You might be able to get Ingram and Reed back, is my thought.
Yeah, I think that's probably accurate.
Let's see. Last couple. Daryl, you need to shake up on offense to do this year to get some new blood. Yes, and I think that is coming. Tatum, welcome back. Glad you remember again.
Great.
I think you were before. If not, welcome, period.
I believe so.
And Gray, Chiefs need an elite corner, an elite D, and an elite receiver. Yeah, that those would all be great to have. Folks, we're going to be back tomorrow night. One or both of us, I'm not sure yet. We'll talk about that. I'm going to Alabama for the Senior Bowl tomorrow to start that draft prep that I know you guys are all interested in now. Thank you for all the likes, the subs, and everything. And if you're new, make sure you do that because we are flipping the page starting this week. I'm going to go record Locked On Chiefs with Matt, Derek, and Chris Clark here in a minute, so you can check that out very soon too. Thank you, Dan, for everything, and we will talk tomorrow.
No problem, you guys. Try to have a better rest of your night. I know it's not easy, but just try.
All right, night all.